Hey yo, welcome to Beyond the Mat, where it's all about the things and stuff, it's like this and like that. Welcome to Beyond the Mat, where it's all about the things and stuff, it's like this and like that. Welcome to Beyond the Mat, where it's all about the things and stuff, it's like this and like that, this and like that, this and like that, this and like that. Hello, all you beautiful beyonders out there. Welcome to Beyond the Mat podcast with me, J. Cole, Dr. J, in the Jesus. This show is brought to you by me. Why am I bringing you this show? It's simple, really, to sell you some shit. What shit? My freaking artwork, man. If you like trippy visuals, if you like weird images that cause your mind to see life in a whole new perspective, or maybe you just got your prescription for some medical marijuana, then you will surely enjoy one of these creations that I have created. Because that's what you do with creations, you create them. It's worth saying again, I create creations. Yes, I do. jcoleyoga.ca is the website. If you would like to cut out the middleman and send me an email, it's j@jcoleyoga.ca, and we can work out a special little side deal, man, and I'll mail you some of the good stuff, if you know what I'm saying. If you ever wanted to enhance or accelerate your personal, romantic, or spiritual goals, dreams, missions, or desires, or maybe you're looking for compassionate, non-judgmental counsel that puts the power back into your own hands, right where it belongs. If this is speaking to you on your soul level or on any level, head on over to facebook.com/Sarah's Alchemical Workshop, where you can get into some psychic readings, astrology consults, or even some guidance counseling. That's facebook.com/Sarah with an H, Sarah's Alchemical Workshop, to book yourself an appointment. And don't forget, folks, this show is brought to you by Anchor.fm, who is constantly sending this show out to iTunes, Pocket Cast, Overcast, Squarecast, and there's a whole ton of other casting services on the way. We also just got approved for Google Play. I didn't even know they did podcasts, but apparently they do. Pretty cool. All right, today's guest is a highly intuitive individual. She is an astrologer and personal counselor. You can find her online at, you guessed it, facebook.com/Sarah's Alchemical Workshop if you would like to hire Sarah for a reading or for help working through your stuff. Ladies and fireflies, please a warm welcome for Sarah Peterson. So welcome, Sarah Peterson, to Beyond the Mat, a show where everything that happens beyond the yoga mat is happening all at once. Watch out, you might miss something.
Thank you.
So you had put like a really cool post on Facebook today talking about like entities kind of taking you over, and that's when I was like, wow, like I've definitely experienced something like that. And then that's kind of when I started to like you know, look at the kind of stuff you were saying and the kind of things that you were into, and I was like, oh my god, this girl will be like the perfect podcast guest. We have so much to talk about. And my thing was about, my answer was about the Halifax ghosts from Halifax, Nova Scotia. And I like what you wrote back about like all of Halifax or Nova Scotia has some kind of like weird energy about it. So maybe you could like maybe elaborate on some of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I'm from Halifax, and I was born and raised more or less. And, you know, it's a beautiful place, but it's difficult to see the energy I was talking about until you've gotten some distance from the place physically. But when I left for about 10 years, and then I came back 2 years ago.
Right.
And I realized just how thick that energy is. What I'm talking about is that what I would call an oversoul entity. is it's a soul that influences individual souls on the earth plane.
Right.
And above that are what some occultists will call archons, which are entities that some people equate to demigods and such. But they, from what my studies have shown me, they actually influence the masses through the oversoul, we could say.
Okay.
And a lot of these archons aren't necessarily positive entities. They feed on our fears, on our greed, on our generally our weaknesses. And Nova Scotia in particular, it's funny because it's a full space, the land and people are very gifted and a magical place, like I said, but the gifts aren't being seen. They're mired in what I call like a poverty mentality.
Right.
And I feel that that's by design by higher dimensional beings who see us as food.
Right. Geez, I almost have felt that that was by design by even like our own government to say the way that we don't get, like I'm also from Halifax, and the way that everything gets like squeezed, like it's kind of like the rest of Canada, and the Maritimes, like they kind of get omitted, and it's like it's a section of the country that kind of just gets pushed aside, and it's like, who cares about a bunch of Scots down there? Who cares about them? And so I feel like, and I don't know why, maybe it's because of the real estate and big entities, big companies want the land or something like that, but they're trying to squeeze everybody into poverty so everyone will just die off and just go away. And then they'll move in and have like all this, because it has some of like the most beautiful landscapes and like waterfront that I've seen. I've been all across Canada, and it's just so beautiful down there. I mean, aside from the winter with the 6 to 12 feet of snow occasionally, but other than that, I mean, it's it's my home, and I'll always call it my home. But as far as going back there to like live again, I don't know, because I totally feel what you mentioned about like when you left and then when you come back, because I had left and I went to Ottawa for 3 or 4 years, and when I came back, just kind of like even as you're driving in through Quebec and getting down to like New Brunswick, there's just this vibe, this vibration, something just changes, and it goes from this like happy-go-lucky, anything goes, back to like old school categorizing and labeling people, lots of judgment. And I guess maybe it does tie back into like a lot of like old Christianity ways of doing things and like that. And getting back to what you just said, I think you said the word was archon, Archons. So these are like archons. These are like the nasty, the angry ones, I guess.
Yeah, some people would liken them to like, Greek Roman god, these gods that aren't really the true creators. They're more like, even in the mythology, we can tell that they are not fully conscious beings. They're jealous, they're petty, vindictive, but they do have powers above what humans have in many ways. But the thing is really, because we could call it archons, like what's going on, like they're eating on the people who live in the Maritimes, because you're right, it does extend right around New Brunswick, Newfoundland, like it's the Maritimes in general, right? The energy does shift very significantly. We could look at it this way, but I often wonder too, did we create these thought forms with the mentality of the people over all the time that we've been in Nova Scotia, too, in the Maritimes? Because like you were saying, you brought up a great point. There's a story that we've all bought into, what the Maritimes is, and the opportunities that are there. I mean, most people even say there's no opportunities, and they just assume that's the truth, when it's actually nowhere near. It's a story we're all buying into. So I feel that it's this kind of Ouroboros of us feeding into the lie, which feeds these other dimensional entities, and then it's just like self-perpetuating. So it's almost like a farm, like a factory farm of despair and destitution that is completely in the mind. It's not objectively real.
Right.
But yeah, the archons, I do believe, and this is, I've been studying for a few years now, and from what I can tell, they really do exist. And their sustenance does come from our negative vibrations. And when you look at the world and the state that it's in, it stands to reason that each pocket of human population does have its own oversoul that in turn feeds into these archons. And and there are places that are happy-go-lucky, but like right now I'm in Missouri. Oh, wow. Energy here is even lower vibe than in the Maritimes.
Wow.
As far as people's business goes, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess they have a longer history too than the Maritimes would have had, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah.
For as long as people have been there.
Ways, right? Because the Maritimes is pretty old compared to the rest of Canada. But it's at least as old, if not more. But it's also the United States, and this has its own bloody history that Canada it's a little bit different in Canada, I think.
Right. When it comes to like Halifax, I always liken back to the Halifax explosion. My great grandmother, she survived, and my great grandfather didn't. So there's a lot of pain attached, and I feel like when you wipe out like an entire city like that, just in moments, everybody's gone. That kind of like flash death, people weren't ready to like come to terms with dying, and so I feel like that has like left a lot of entities and spirits attached to those grounds. And that's what I have always just assumed that it was, that the Halifax ghosts, that's what happens when half a city dies all at once. And with me, I would see these like black wisps of smoke, and it would just be there in the room, or the room would get really cold, and I'd be like, that's weird, it's like middle of summer and all of a sudden it's freezing in this room. And then I would get like really angry and upset, and I would tune in and ask myself, like, why am I even upset? Why am I super annoyed right now? Like, I'm not even doing anything. I might have even been like smoking some cannabis or something, like been like all happy, and all of a sudden just this feeling of like annoyance and anger would just well up inside me, and I would have to tune in and be like, okay, why are you angry? You're not. There's no reason to be angry or annoyed. You're high sitting here in your room, like there's nothing going on, nothing changed. And then I would see like this black wisp of smoke, kind of like a smoky entity, and it would just kind of dissolve through the wall or something. And sometimes they were white and sometimes they were black, but that's kind of the...
Well, I've had some very messed up experiences in Halifax in particular too that are not like that.
Yeah.
One of my first experiences when I was 13, some people liken this to sleep paralysis, when you can't move and there's a dark figure over you. But the place that I was in central Halifax, now this is the old part of Halifax, down like near Creighton Street, Charles Street, Gottingen Street area, right? Yeah. Which is definitely old Halifax. That place had a heavy energy, and I never had so many vivid nightmares, and like I saw shadows too that were in that house that I wouldn't go back into my room. I had to sleep in another room in the house, just because the energy felt, I don't know how else to put it, but it felt like just like this evil, like a lack of.
Yeah.
And apparently 2,000 people that were killed in that blast and 9,000 injuries in the Halifax explosion. I just checked.
Okay.
It's a pretty significant. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it might not even sound like a lot of people today, but the population back then was a lot less too. So that's like a good chunk.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the city was less than half the size it is now, I believe, around, I think it was 1906, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, that was a long time. Or 1917, sorry, my bad.
We don't care about dates and accuracy here at Beyond the Mat. I'm impressed that you even just researched that on your own. That's so cool.
Just in case anyone was wondering.
Yeah, no, definitely. Geez, I'm like a population guy. For some reason, everyone asks me what the population of places are. So like, I've taken it upon myself to try and learn a few population statistics now and then, and it's just a weird thing. People are like, oh, you're from, because I lived in Moncton as well in New Brunswick. People are like, oh, you're from Moncton. What's the population like there? I'm like, I don't know, man. What kind of a question is that? I lived in Shediac too, and a lot of people would ask me, what's the population of Shediac? I'm like, I don't know. And then eventually I wanted to know. I'm like, okay. There's 5,000 people, 6,000 in Shediac. And Moncton just broke, I think, like the 70,000 mark. Like they're not even, or maybe closer to 100. But between 70 and 100, they're not even that big. For the size of the city, I mean, that place is massive. And it just kind of keeps growing and growing, but no one really lives there. You got to go forever to try and get somewhere. And I feel Halifax is growing kind of in the same way, growing outwardly and bigger and further away, so that like to get places, to get things, you need to take like 3 or 4 buses to get places now, and things just don't seem to ever kind of just settle down. They just kind of keep growing and growing and growing. I wonder if ever there will be a contentment mark where it's like, oh, hey, you know what? No, we're good. We're good now. This is it. We don't need any more people, and we don't need to grow any further out into the woods. This is all we need right now. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I always think that too about Halifax, especially because, it is just kind of growing out and out. Now that the other parts of HR have amalgamated into officially what we're calling now Halifax, it's even bigger.
Yeah. That brings in like a whole other slew of issues and things that people are upset about because, like, for one, and they changed it because there was so much outcry, chickens. So like my aunt lives in Middle Musquodoboit, which is like a 2-hour drive out of Halifax, but that's still considered the HRM, the regional metro. So within the HRM, you're not allowed to have chickens in your backyard. My aunt had chickens because they live way the hell out on a farm, like a horse ranch with like 4 or 5 horses. But yet they're not allowed to have chickens in the backyard because a few people downtown Halifax had some chickens that some people complained about and went into, City Hall and complained and said, okay, well, that's it. Let's wipe out all the chickens. And, I'm sure egg sales went through the roof for Sobeys and Superstore and all that. And I'm sure maybe even they had a part in having the chicken coops removed, but that's a little too much conspiracy for me to say up front. But for sure, people complain because chickens, they're kind of stinky. They're kind of annoying. We have chickens in our backyard. Our neighbors just got them like a week ago. And we kind of don't have a backyard anymore. There's just like chicken poop everywhere. And they just kind of free range all over the place, and they scare the cat, they scare the dog, they scare all the squirrels away. So like this beautiful serenity that was there has been shattered by 2 little hens clucking around eating all the bugs.
Who would have thought? You see them on TV. I mean, when I see farms, especially hobby farms, and it's so quaint with the chickens moving around, on the property. I didn't realize that all the while they were just terrorizing me.
Oh my God. They're like little dinosaurs. If you ever look up close at their face and their scaly little legs and their little eyes, like, rah! They're so methodical too. They're highly skilled killers. So I have these stevia plants that I'm growing for sweetener. Stevia is like 300 times sweeter than sugar and has 0 calories. And it works good for me for my wacky diets that I do. And I watched this hen go over to my stevia plant. And I was like, oh, no, you don't. You better not be touching my plant. And its little eye went, and it just snapped. And it snapped a bug off the leaf. And the leaf didn't even move, but it got the bug. And I was like, oh, all right. Okay.
Wow.
You get this one. But I got my eye on you, chicken.
Yeah, keep inside you.
Yeah. So yeah, getting off track here. I think it's cool that I think it's funny that you mentioned Josh Coleman in that Facebook comment too earlier, because Josh was the first guest on the show here, Beyond the Mat, and Josh had hired me to work at his yoga studio, the Center in Halifax, when that was running. So that was a good learning experience when I was just cutting my teeth on the whole yoga teaching business. That was a good opportunity. Great little community of everybody. I mean, I had met a lot of people before, but you know, things change, people come and go, things grow and shrink, and I must have taught at like 3 different studios that all got shut down. That's when I kind of clued in. I was like, maybe yoga is not like a good way to make money here anymore. And
oh, really?
Yeah, so like it just doesn't, I don't know. And I mean, I had applied at tons of studios and everyone was like, yeah, we're not really hiring anyone. In fact, like we're kind of scaling back on our classes, and places were just shutting down left and right. Places I had applied to were just closing the doors. And I mean, the big brand names like Moksha Yoga, obviously they can stay active because they have the money from all the other franchises to keep running. It's kind of like if nobody shopped at a certain Walmart for a whole day, well, it doesn't mean that Walmart goes out of business because all the other Walmarts got shopped at, right? And that money all goes into a pool that pays everybody. And I feel that like the bigger studios that do have chains or franchises, they are able to stay afloat a little bit longer, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Are you a yoga fan yourself?
Well, I did practice yoga for about 4 years, although now I've kind of morphed it into my own practice with controlled articular rotation and dance.
Okay.
It's part of my ritual and my work because I do, I'm not an astrologer, I also work very intimately with shadow work, and part of my shadow work practice involves body movement to help release shadows and traumas that are trapped in the body, much like yoga, you know.
Right.
Yeah, but I've kind of made it my own. Yoga, though, really did help me a lot to work through traumas that I had from childhood and whatnot, that it helped me to understand too that could even happen, that it could get trapped in the body somatically.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting though, because with yoga and I've noticed I don't know about the rest of the world, but in Halifax, yeah, yoga, it seems like it's a bit on a decline, which is too bad because it is really a very powerful practice, I think, that can help people, especially in this day and age, reconnect to their body, because with all the technologies that we have and things like Facebook and our cell phones, we're dissociating from the body constantly.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah,
yoga's
it's so helpful, like you just said, like spiritually, feeling wise, but I feel like, again, going back to that Maritimes thing, people are still set back 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago. So they're still kind of like, oh, I don't know, it sounds a little like hippy-dippy woo-woo to me. You start talking about energies and subtleties and things like that. Like, for the most part, people are like, I don't know. But when you flip it and turn around and go like, oh, guess what? This will help your hockey team win more games. They go, oh, all right, yeah. The whole team's doing yoga for the whole season. And
isn't that fun?
Yeah. So if it comes to a sport, then yeah, hook them up. But don't talk about Hare Krishnas, don't talk about energies, don't talk about crystals, don't talk about any shadow work, don't talk about any of this stuff. Just do the yoga, do the moves, get out. And that's what I gathered mostly people were looking for on the East Coast, like in general.
Can I question about that? As a yoga instructor yourself, and having, I assume you have yoga practices as you know, for yourself as well, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, you know, do you feel that attitude diminishes from being able to really absorb the full benefits of what yoga has to offer?
I mean, yes and no, because so when you're explaining like subtle energies, people are going to feel it, because I never felt it before until someone brought it up in a yoga class and was like, now feel that subtle in the lower belly, and you're just like, oh my God, yeah, it's there. Oh, now I know what they're talking about. Whereas before I would have just skipped over it. So I feel like by skipping over it, you're not allowing everybody to truly take in the full spectrum of what is available, of what's really happening in the room at the time. It would be like watching a movie, but let's leave the sound off and not tell anyone that there's sound because they're not ready for sound. Because sound has nothing to do with the sport they're about to play. That's kind of how I would equate that.
That's really good. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like only part of, like, not fully dimensional, only partially. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's myself, even with my work. You know, I mean, working with conscious meditation is a big part of it as well, and it's observation meditations more than visualization types, where you're in your own world, observing your universe, you could say. And the more that I do that, the more I realize just, you know, like, we're constantly, like, we have the ability to constantly refine our focus as far as being able to even perceive energies and things like that in this world, that a lot of the time we could go through our whole life and not even realize they're there. We could be, as you say, going through life with the sound off our entire lives just because we're not paying attention. It's kind of unfortunate to hear, you know, that that we need to kind of change how we market our services and in our industries to get people on board. But yet at the same time, isn't that the nature of marketing? I find it so frustrating sometimes.
Well, as someone who has studied marketing, and I used to have an advertising company back in the day, I can tell you that it is 100% evil. It is 100% designed to mess with people's psyches, and there's 1% of it that's there just to be a sign on your building to say, like, hey, we sell potatoes. You want some potatoes? We have potatoes. But that's like 1% of marketing. The rest is just like brainwash and attacking everybody in through visual senses, through hearing senses, smell, touch now too. They put, like, you start to see like textures on the packaging in the store, and now if a package has texture and it's green, you're like, oh, this is recycled material. I feel okay about spending double the price on this packaging. Meanwhile, the packaging isn't recycled or anything. They've just added like a granular kind of texture to it. And I've noticed a lot of like so-called more like holistic, organic brands have all started this new like trend of trying to look more earthy, or they won't even put color. They'll just have like a brown paper bag with like some gritty looking stuff in it. And it's all just designed just to mess with your mind, really, when it comes down to it. Because when you open up that brown packaging, what's inside? Another plastic bag with your item inside that plastic bag. So it's like, do we really even need that outer packaging at all? So, and I kind of apply that to any business. It's like, do you need the plastic on the outside of your plastic, or do you not? And I guess it depends on what you're selling. It's easy if it is just potatoes. You just put the sign potatoes. Maybe mail a flyer to people. Hey, y'all, I got some potatoes. Oh, good. I needed some potatoes. I'll be right over. But
yeah, wouldn't it be? You just say it as it is. It almost, what you're saying, though, it makes me think of bringing it back to the house ghost thing in a sense, where, you know, we're kind of told that Nova Scotia is such and such a way, like, we're being marketed in a sense to perceive the Maritimes and Halifax as a certain way. But man, I know you've been able to perceive this as someone energetically sensitive. Is Nova Scotia not a beautiful place beyond the cognition where the general population seems to be at?
In general, everybody seems to be like really sweet and really nice and kind in the most part. I mean, I don't know any other place, and I've said this to people here because I'm now in British Columbia out west, and I've said this before where, like, back east, we'll be like walking through the streets at night through cottage country or through a subdivision. It doesn't matter. If there's a gathering of people in a backyard around a campfire, it doesn't matter who you are. You just walk in and sit down, and people are going to greet you, and they're going to give you a beer, and they're going to say, hey, sit down and have a chat with us. Out here, everybody's so cliquey and less inclusive in that kind of a way. Everyone is kind of like doing their own thing. You would never just walk into someone's backyard. It would be so weird, and they'd probably be like, "Hey, who are you? You're a stranger. Get out of here." And
right.
but that open friendliness of the East Coast, where everyone's just so warm and inviting. Oh, come on in, have a seat. Like, can I get you something to eat? Are you hungry? We have some food on the barbecue. There's some leftover. Let me just heat the barbecue up. You're like, no, don't turn the barbecue on. Oh, it's no problem. Oh, geez, we're out of propane. Hang on. I'll run out to the back shed and get the extra can of propane. And like, now it's become a whole ordeal. And you're like, oh, all this because I just stopped into the neighbors just to say hi.
And it's no big deal for them because it's just like the hospitality of the Maritimes. It's so interesting how there's that generosity and willingness to share with each other, but yet also this inherent belief that they're worthless and that it's hard to find work. And when I don't mean like people think that they're worthless, but actually in a sense I kind of do. We're almost taught, oh well, like you said, the rest of the country sees us almost as a welfare province, So I think we pick up that too. I mean, I grew up pretty poor, so a lot of the time the go-to was, well, how are you going to get the government to give you some money? Instead of how can you use your ingenuity to create prosperity for yourself? And
that is what I love about America, because I mean, it's like you pull yourself up or you don't. Like, it's not, everyone's not looking for handouts. And here in Canada, everyone wants a handout. They want a government grant to start a business. They want training wheels to start their businesses. Nobody's willing to just, work really hard for like 5 years, save every dollar you have, don't go to movies, don't buy extra frivolous clothing and food and junk food, just bank it all and then use that to start something for yourself. We're kind of missing that. We're all kind of like suckling on the teat of the government around here. And just the nature too of the East Coast, and the fact that everybody every 6 months would go on unemployment insurance because winter showed up. I mean, that created a whole way of life that people started to depend on through fisheries and hunting and things like that, where they would and even I have family who work at national parks. So all the national parks people go on unemployment every winter. So there's like six months of half the population doing nothing, getting paid by the government just to barely stay alive. So you're not you're not incentivized really to do a lot for yourself. You're more incentivized over time as the generations went by. It just became a way of life. And I remember oh yeah, well, you got to get a good job for the government so you can go on unemployment. I mean, that was pushed down my throat as a child growing up. It was like, yo, you got to get a good job, get some unemployment happening so you can sit around and do nothing, because everybody kind of valued sitting around doing nothing was more of the value than maybe valuing the work that they did or valuing what their job was or even figuring out what their own core values were. No one thinks about stuff like that back east. It's not even a concept.
It's true. It's just like when you're looking for water and there's not water readily available, but then we don't see it, but then at the same time water's in the air. So if you set up a tarp in such a way, you're going to have to collect the condensation, and there you go, there's water. What I mean to make my point is just when you don't know, you don't know, and it is the way of life, right? I mean, and it's as somebody being an astrologer, especially one who very much my focus is on helping people claim their sovereignty and their divinity and their gifts. I see so many gifted people, especially in Halifax, and yet it's almost as if a lot of challenge see what their gift is, and let alone how could I use that gift to become self-sufficient.
Right. Geez, that kind of. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, and yeah, I feel like the time that's going to change, and it is slowly changing. It's just I'm super impatient. I wish it would happen
now. I need it now.
Yeah.
So this kind of quickly reminds me of a story that happened. So my grandfather passed away. He left all the grandkids, him and my grandmother, left grandkids some inheritance money. I was just getting into flotation tanks. So I had approached my dad. I had sourced all the material. I had figured out I could build my own flotation tank for $1,500. And I said, I'm just going to build this thing. I'm going to get the Epsom salts. I'm going to fill it up. I'm going to become a float master. And then I'm going to put the float tank in like a day spa or at a tanning salon. And I'm just going to rent it out through other people's locations. And so I had approached my dad with this. And my dad was like, oh, no, that's a stupid idea. That'll never, no, you just save your money. Because I mean, I needed my dad's help because he's like a construction guy. He's into building and things like that. Very good with his hands. He's the perfect person to help me build this project, and kind of the only person in my whole network I had to help me do something like that. And he just kind of turned his nose up at it. Oh, this is stupid. This is dumb hippie stuff. No, save your money. I'm not helping with this. And it kind of just, rained on my parade. Rained in my flotation tank and washed all the salt away. So I ended up not doing it. And fast forward to today, well, holy shit. In Halifax, they have a whole float lab. You can go in and there's a whole building of flotation tanks, or you can go in and rent them for like upwards to $90 an hour. And I'm just like kicking myself in the ass now. And I'm like, oh, I've constantly come up with these awesome ideas like this, but whenever you would filter it through the mind of someone from the Maritimes, their immediate reaction is, no, that's dumb and that's stupid, don't do it. Save your money, save your energy, save your time. Don't you want to just sit around and do nothing? And it's kind of like, oh, yeah, I guess I do. I guess I do just want to sit around and do nothing.
And that float is doing really well too. I mean, they're doing exceptionally well. And you're right. The thing is I think we have access to ideas from the ether, we could say. And if you're, resonating on a specific frequency, you can pick that up. But then the minute, like, what ends up happening is sometimes if we don't get a chance to let our idea take seed and someone else injects their, like, mental poisoning, we could say, onto it, it kills it before it even has a chance to germinate. And that's definitely a thing that I see in the Maritimes that is, it needs to change, because that's it right there. That's an incredible idea, Jason. Like,
yeah.
To come up with your own idea. And you're self-employed, though, so you've been able to not have to, I guess you could say, succumb to the matrix in that sense and work on, a 9 to 5. Well, so that's something.
Although I've been in the matrix. I've been right in. I mean, I worked at Walmart at one point, so I know the depths of evil that lurks underneath every town and city in this whole country. And yes, so to go, I mean, I've walked the line on both sides. I've been a musician in a band. I've been a self-employed graphic designer. And then I've worked other jobs too on the side. And it's just always kept this weird balance of walking this line of both having a job and not having a job, and not like having a job, but you kind of need it, but you kind of don't at the same time. So you kind of like, there's this light, airy attitude of walking into work, kind of like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. I know if I fall, I'll land on my ass and I'll get back up again. And it's okay because there's other stuff out there. I know, I just kind of trust, I trust the universe to take care of me. And the only way to do that is to allow it. So you have to put yourself in a vulnerable position where the universe can actually take care of you. And it's not going to take care of you if you're punching that clock 9 to 5. I guess it's not even 9 to 5 anymore. It's more like 7 to 6, I think, is the new time frame that people work. And to get out of that and just kind of let yourself be free, the first time that it happened, when you're like, how am I going to pay my rent? Oh man, oh geez. And then it happens for you and you're like, oh wow, I paid my rent and I got a whole bunch of money left over. I can go buy anything I want at any store, anywhere, within reason. That feels really, really good. And a lot of people think that they can't do that. They think, oh, well, that's not for me. I'm not that kind of minded. Well, I can't add or subtract. I can't multiply or divide. I can't balance a checkbook. I can't do any of the things that business people do. And yet I'm in business and been running full-time self-employment now for like the last 2 years now. 2 or 3 years full-time.
Wow, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's not always what you want to be doing. I mean, some days you don't feel like doing yoga. You're like, well, I'm just not in the mood. I don't have the energy. I don't have whatever it is. Maybe it's just a feeling that's going through the city and you're just tapping into that, or anxiety or anything. You're just like, I just don't want to do this. I don't want to deal with this person. They're too low energy for me. But I mean, you push past that kind of stuff. I mean, if that's the worst part of your day is that someone else has a little bit of anxiety, I think it's not the worst thing.
Yeah, for real. I guess we count our blessings, right? Like where we can, because it's no, like you said, it's no small feat to be able to become self-sufficient, especially when you've got that kind of just like influential energy, like I was saying, like that oversoul energy that's just kind of feeding off of and feeding into people in such a way where, you know, it's just like this heavy cloud over the cognitive. To be able to break out that, like, you know, like a strong bursting forth towards the sun it's huge. And I feel that in the direction we're going in as a collective, you're going to be seeing a lot more people, I feel, to become self-sufficient in less than traditional ways.
Right.
But yet, at the same time, we're more connected to the earth and to like the natural cosmic laws and principles and things.
I have to wonder what the oversoul is like here in British Columbia, because especially on the island, on Vancouver Island, like everyone is like all the things, you know. I can run in, you can pick up a rock and throw it and you're bound to hit a yoga teacher, a meditation teacher, some kind of healer. You're going to hit like someone who's into all these things. You're going to hit an astrologer, and maybe you'll hit all of those people, and it might not all be in one person. The rock might just bounce and hit 6 different people, and they're all going to be like really into this, like this health and wellness and vitality, and like everybody's like a little more healthy, health-minded, a little more happy. People make a lot more money here too, just in general. So I would kind of wonder like what the oversoul here is. That's feeding off of and feeding back into like kind of like a loop.
Oh man, yeah, I've never actually been to Vancouver Island. The closest I've been in BC, like I lived in the Kootenays for a very short period of time.
No way.
And
I lived in Nelson. Yeah.
Outside of Nelson, BC. Very open-minded.
No way. I lived right in.
Yeah, I was doing woofing there, like a work exchange.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
oh.
I lived right in Nelson for like 9 months.
Yeah, oh, no way.
Yeah.
No way. That's awesome. What are they?
Well, I mean, when it comes to people like us, it's a small world. There's only so many places we can go.
Yeah, well, that's true. But still, you know, it's just kind of a coincidence. But yeah, when I was there, you know, it is such a really nice energy in BC. It's quite different. I wonder if it's because it's less old than the rest of the country, significantly. So there's a lot less, I get kind of like British influence, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Even though it's British Columbia, it just seems like less of that old world way of thinking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I'd love to look into it, though.
Yeah, well, Nelson itself, like, because the mountain of, like, for anyone who doesn't know, Nelson is a town built right on the side of a mountain. So there's 2 mountain peaks that come down and meet in the center where there's a little river that runs through. And one side of that mountain is like a town, a village, I guess. A town. There's enough people to call it a town. And Nelson sits on one of the largest crystal quartz deposits in the world.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's definitely something worthy of note.
Yeah. I mean, there's 1 or 2 maps online where you can hike up this mountain, and there's levels of mountain climbing expertise, and it's like one of like the highest levels that you need. You need to be like an expert climber to get into these spots, but you can climb in, and there's a cave you can get into, and the crystal quartz are like human sized. There's just, the whole cave is crystal quartz. If you went in with an axe, you could lug out, and I don't recommend anybody do this, but you could lug out just metric tons upon tons of crystal quartz. and it's all naturally grown. It's not like made in a lab or pressure cooker or like a lot of that stuff is today. So that's really cool. But also equally online, there's a lot of pushback. There's people saying like, don't ever go in there. It's dangerous. This is private property. We don't want anyone trespassing on our property to get to this cave. The cave has been closed. There's all this like, I'm kind of like, why is there like a few people like with these secret maps, and then there's people who are like, no, don't go here. And I'm like, they're hiding something special and I need to get to it. But I'm not an expert climber, and I wasn't willing to fork out all the money in climbing gear to go and figure it out. But maybe someday.
Yeah, it sounds like the magical secret in there that needs to be discovered.
I'm sure they know. They just don't want it exploited is the thing.
Well, and I mean that's the other thing too, because when it comes to especially natural beauty, sometimes to keep it intact, I can see why people who know about it would want to keep it secret, because as humans, sometimes we don't wipe our feet when we come into the house. We just walk all through with our shoes on, getting muck everywhere, and just, kind of causing irreparable damage. So,
yeah,
I can see where you're coming from, but yet at the same time, I want to see these crystal caves. It sounds like a beautiful experience.
Yeah. No, I want to see it just to see it and be in it and feel the vibration of that much crystal all around me. That would be really cool. But other than that, I'm okay just looking at some pictures. And they didn't seem to have too many pictures. There was a few, but not too much, which was kind of interesting. So, there's still that chance, like, I don't know, maybe these people with their maps are making this all up. You might get in there and find nothing. But I mean, all it would take would be for the town of Nelson to sell the mineral rights underneath the mountain for a company to go in and just clear all that out. And then would Nelson still attract those like weary wanderlust type folk, who like fairy, woodland, elfland kind of people I found were all very gravitated towards there. There wasn't a lot of mainstream kind of people, I noticed, and it was a very unique kind of people who are attracted to going there. And it would go both ways, because some people would show up and find work and be able to stay there, and then there was like all the other people who would show up thinking that this was some paradise, and then they would just end up broke and homeless and nowhere to live, and then they're looking for change and all that whole routine, and then they're trying to hitchhike their ass out of there and get over to the island here to Victoria. Oh my. So
yeah, well, I mean, so you need to be using your noodle to figure out how to make money, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah that's kind of the what I saw. Everyone was self-employed. And if you're not self-employed, then you're probably not going to make it there. So find something you're good at and start selling it. Hopefully, and it is kind of like a Smurf village in a way. There's one baker, there's one butcher, there's one candlestick maker. There's one really good cafe. There's 3 cafes that I liked, but one definitely stood out the most. And that was it. There's like one kind of shoe store downtown. There's only one. So you need to not be in direct competition with somebody else either. You need to find something that's missing, something that they don't have already.
Yeah, for sure. You need your edge, find your edge, or as Doug Stanhope, the comedian, would say, you need to find your jam.
So, hey, you mentioned talking about meditation earlier. What is your style? Like, what's your technique? What do you like to?
Well, I Vipassana meditation daily.
So wait, Vipassana is like when you go to a retreat and nobody talks for 10 days, like that kind.
They do. That's actually how I got in. I did a 10-day silent meditation retreat with the Vipassana in Alberta, and that is, I consider it a yin meditation, where you're sitting and receptive and observing.
Right.
You're not necessarily push away or anything or stay on any topic. You're just kind of watching your thoughts and sensations as they arise and pass away. And I really like that practice because it helps me develop and maintain objectivity and clarity of seeing just myself in the world and understanding my emotional responses so that I can remove myself from them rather than be inside of them. So I really like Vipassana for that. But I also have other meditation practices too that are more, I guess you could say they're closer to energy work, similar to Reiki, in that I like to send love and kindness to wherever it needs to go. I usually use myself as a conduit and have God or Creator kind of send the energy where it needs to go, and I channel it through myself. So that's a meditation practice that I find really healing for, especially for my heart.
Right.
But yeah, those are the major ones. And I also like dancing meditation as well.
Huh. I've never done a dancing meditation. I did a walking meditation at Shambhala Buddhist Center before, where you get up like halfway through and you walk and meditate at the same time, which was which was weird because I didn't know that was going to happen. I wasn't ready for it. And then I just kind of, everyone get up now and start walking around. You're like, oh, okay. And I'm like looking around, I'm looking at everybody, I'm checking out what they're wearing. I'm looking at there's a teacher too, kind of like a leader in Shambhala Buddhist meditations. So there's like the class leader, I guess. I'm looking at what he's doing and trying to smell what kind of incense they're burning, checking out the tapestries on the wall. And then later I found out you're not supposed to look at any of that shit. You look at the heel of the person in front of you and you stay in that meditative state, only you're walking, in order to try and incorporate more of a physical movement so that like you're meditating and moving so that maybe later on in the day, when you're not even thinking about meditating, you'll still be meditating. You'll be able to better incorporate it into your daily life. And I didn't know that at the time, so it's kind of weird to not know. And
I heard of walking meditation. I feel like dancing meditation is similar in that you're spending time in the body. You don't let your thoughts or the music overtake you, because when you do that, and there's nothing wrong with that outside of this practice, but for me, I like to use it so that it's like I'm moving the energy without consciously moving it. I'm feeling the sensations as I move my body, but I'm moving it as I'm like unconsciously, I guess you can say, called to do. It's kind of complex and a bit difficult to describe, but it's a highly observational yet at the same time more yang meditation, because you're moving your body at the same time. Similar, I would say, in a sense, it's kind of similar to yoga, because you are observing your body as it's moving, and you're breathing, right? Like you have a controlled cadence in a sense, right? Similar to what do you call the breathing that we do in yoga? That's eluding me right now.
Like Ujjayi breathing?
Yeah. So right? Where it's sort of almost like it almost sounds like an ocean, right? In a sense,
it's like a constricted nasal breathing is what I say to all the layman's out there.
Sure, yeah, and it's a little more audible, so it helps you stay kind of centered, I guess you could say. But I like to do that because there's something about really primal and species, and to be able to move your body as your body wants to move is a really interesting meditative practice too, because it brings up all sorts of emotions and physical sensations that for me, I like to do it really to help me stay lucid, but yet at the same time allow my body to move the way it needs to, which helps with just dealing with physical traumas that I've built up over time, and especially when it comes to how I view my body even, and what it's capable of, because sometimes when you start moving it, even with being fully conscious, you'll be able to do interesting movements that are very flowy and almost like etheric, like water-like, but I'm not controlling it. It's really cool, and I would love to I don't know, I guess you could almost liken it to ecstatic dance, but there's a lot of consciousness involved. You're not letting yourself dissociate at all.
Right.
But yeah.
So what is ecstatic dance? This is like a new thing that has been coming up a lot in like podcasts I listen to, and just, I don't know, in the world around me. So I just see it come up a lot lately. So ecstatic dance, and someone was introducing their new ecstatic dance they had created, and I was like, well, what does that mean? Like, you like wrote a dance that you're going to perform for people, or you wrote like the DJ, the beat that goes with it or something? So I'm not. And when I look it up on YouTube, there's maybe like 2 or 3 videos, and it just kind of looks like a bunch of ravers out in a field kind of going all crazy.
It kind of is like that. No, don't get me wrong. I don't facilitate ecstatic dance, so I'm not like a trained professional. I don't even know if he would train it. But from what I understand ecstatic dance to be, and how I've accepted it to be defined is, it's dance where you really just let the moment take you and you move your body and have fun. Like, you're really not thinking about dancing in a certain way or even to a specific beat. You're just kind of listening to the music and listening to your body and having a really great time. So it can totally look like ravers just totally going crazy in a sense, because your body may move in ways that could even make other people uncomfortable. It's a really interesting thing to watch because it can be really cathartic and therapeutic to let you kind of express your feelings through your body, but in a way that's just like really letting yourself have fun in the moment too. It's kind of like crumping, but not angry.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
No, I had no idea. I have no idea. I'm gonna definitely go to one someday soon. I'm just kind of like wild out, because I'm a big dubstep fan, and I love just giving her. But I mean, for me just giving her that last maybe 6 minutes at the most, and then I'm done. I'm done for the whole night. Like, I'll get out there and I'll just wild out, and then that's it. Like, I don't need any more. And I'm good for like another 6 months. I don't need to do another dance again. But that's just me. I know a lot of people get a lot of benefit from dancing. They love the movement, the flow, the energy of the other people being around them. And I guess all the benefits that come from that, the connection with other humans.
Yeah, it's a big thing. I think it's very primal. Something very intrinsic to the root of our humanity, in a sense, too, to just be able to dance. And especially rhythms that are very, like Taurian, like Taurus, where it's earthy, and close to sense where it's like you want to like crazy and stomper. Good for us. 6 minutes. If that works for you, that works for you, right? Like, as long as you feel good, that's what matters.
Yeah, that's about it. I mean, all at once, 6 minutes. Maybe take a break, do another little dance. But like, I won't even listen to I won't even dance through a whole song. And I know it's hard to tell what is a song when you're listening to like drum and bass and dubstep, because they all kind of blend together. But I mean, in, let's say, a 3 or 4 minute song or a track, I'm not going to dance the whole 3 or 4 minutes. Like, I'm just going to kind of like, a melody or something will hit me, and I'll be like, yeah, that's it. And I'll feel it, and it'll just like wash over my whole body. And I'm like, yeah. And I just start moving and flailing my arms around like an idiot. And then it's gone. And then the song hasn't even over yet, but the melody has changed or something. And then I'm like, okay, I've had enough of that. And then that's the cool thing about that kind of music and those kind of scenes, is that it's very individual. It's very independent. You're not relying on like a dance partner to keep going through shit that you don't want to listen to, or that you're not even vibing on anymore. You're not feeling it. You just go sit down. You go over to the bar. You get some water. You hydrate. Go to the washroom or something. Like, you can totally step out whenever you want. And I've been a raver since way back in the 90s, so I've been to some raves, man. And I've definitely pushed it to the limit, and I've definitely pushed through, like, I don't know, just trying to outdance my friends or something, and then you just get extra tired and extra sweaty and extra low energy, and then you start looking to the external to build that energy back up again. And that's when things get even more crazy. Luckily, that part of my life is over. Those chapters have been closed, but I'm thankful that they're there through all the partying and everything like that. I have like the best stories to tell. And everybody always has like a negative like party story to tell to try and dissuade the youth from going down that road. And I'm totally opposite. I'm kind of like, no, there's a whole bunch of really good shit that happened. There's all these positive things. There's all these great venues. There's awesome people that I've met. We've gone on road trips together. We've gone camping together. There's tons of things. I moved to LA with some friends who I had met through the music business. Wow. It's never just like a negative like horror story with me. It's like, well, yeah, we did do all these things and put all of these things into our body to have a really good time, and we did crash really hard for the next 4 days. But let me tell you, that drive on the way out of LA, it was awesome. And we had like rented some fancy sports car or something too to like drive out there. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, there's always like a flip side, and I don't know if it's just because I'm a Pisces that I can kind of see both sides of the story. I can wear both people's shoes at the same time. I can wear mine and someone else's, which really sucks when you're trying to be angry at somebody, but you can totally see things through their point of view. And you're trying so hard to just be pissed off, and it's like, oh, I hate you so much, but I also see your point of view. So, I can't really get angry, but I am angry, but I'm not. And yeah, that's the wonderful duality of the Pisces fish.
Pisces is so important, though. I'm the last sign of the zodiac too, and for good reason, because that's a level of wisdom that none of the other signs has really been able to cultivate, at least by the archetype. By archetype. So although it's mutable, so it kind of, you can go in many directions and maybe even get lost in the ether, we could say, right? Or in ambiguity, it still has the capacity to really, like you said, to be able to really see from a point of compassion and real empathy what someone else's perspective or situation is. So, that is a gift. That is definitely a gift.
I see it the most really when we're like when I'm in a car with someone else and we're at a traffic light and somebody's done something wrong and it's annoyed the driver next to me and they can't see how it was their fault or how the other person, they totally just are blinded by the reality of what's happening in front of them. And I'll watch this like near accident happen and then watch the driver next to me get all upset and heated about it. And it's like, yo, first of all, didn't you see that other guy came out from the left and this other guy came from the right and almost hit him, and that's why they almost hit you? And it's like, no, I didn't see any of that. All I see is someone banging into my car and I'm angry about it. And it's like, yo, like, let it go. None of this was any of our fault. Like, this is totally a mal-design of a stoplight, like, or something like a four-way stop where things just didn't work out so smoothly. And I always found it funny that this has happened so many times in my life when I will be the passenger and I'll be able to see it all. And I'm like, how are you driving? And how can you not see what's happening right here in front of you? Like, where is your mind? What are you thinking about right now that you're not watching what's going on? Like, should I get out of this car and maybe walk home? Because I'm starting to feel that might be the safest way home.
Well, like, from your perspective, though, like that, they wouldn't be able to see it at all. So
yeah,
even if they're, and it's good that you're there to be able to present to them the alternative perspective on what's going on, right? Because, yeah, that's the thing about the pipe. You can really see from all sides where people are at, especially when it comes to their emotions and their spirituality and that type of thing. So I don't know. I definitely do, especially as Capricorn, who wants to cap everyone. I can really appreciate Pisces. It's a stabilizing energy, despite the fact that it's mutable.
But so I'm able to see all this outside stuff, but I can't see anything when it comes to my own self. That's the downside of it.
Like, that's why we need to go with ourselves. That's why things like meditation are so indispensable, because we really do struggle, I think, to see ourselves more than anyone else in the world.
Yeah. I started doing transcendental meditation, and that is it's really cool because it works, but then it's really not cool because of like what's associated with it, with the organization that you have to pay all the money to learn it. And some people are just like, whatever, it's like, it's a few $100, like just pay them and let them do their thing. The cool thing is that the TM people are putting a buttload of money into the scientific research behind meditation with brain scans and all this kind of stuff, and monitoring meditators, doing these like experiments where they have 2,000 meditators descend into a city and meditate for a whole week and watch the crime levels drop. Whereas the alternative is that when there's a fight, like an MMA fight or a boxing fight, crime levels in that city will rise exponentially during the week leading up to that fight. Little things like that. I mean, no other meditation sect really has the funding and the money to put behind it. But I mean, at the same time, you look at the TM movement, and these guys are like living in palaces in California and sitting on golden thrones and things like that. So you're kind of like, well, I think y'all are spending your money a little frivolously, but at the same time, you're doing a lot of good. But then again, all it really is a mantra meditation. So that's all you're doing is just repeating a word over and over again. And then they say that the word is selected just for you. So I found out, I'm like, well, how do they select that word? Well, it's based on your birthday. And there's actually a chart. And if you were born within a certain range, they give you a Sanskrit word that's the name of one of the gods, the many thousands of gods, that's attached with your birth date. And that's your mantra that you repeat over and over. And they say, don't ever tell anybody this mantra. It's a secret and only you can ever know it. And that's because if you ever said the word to like someone who might know a little bit more about like Hinduism, they'd be like, oh, that's the name for Krishna when he turned into a cow. And you'd be like, what the fuck? How did you know that word's not supposed to have any meaning? And then every time you meditate and say that word, you're going to have a picture of like a blue cow or something, or whatever the thing is, right? So the intent is to have a word that has no meaning. And so I devised my own little system where I put a bunch of syllables in a hat and drew 3 syllables out. And I came up with Ra, Ma, Sa. So I just say Ra, Ma, Sa repeatedly over and over again. And so rather than return to the breath, and this is the cool thing about TM, is that it's kind of like, it's the meditation for all the Homer Simpsons of the world. Only they can't afford it because it costs so much. And it's really easy. You can do it walking, you can do it sitting, you can lay down, you can breathe or not breathe, you can have your eyes open or closed, you can listen to music or not listen to music, you can do it when you're driving, you can do it at any time. You just like get into your mantra and just return to the mantra every time. Instead of returning to the breath, return to the mantra. And in that sense, it's really cool and it's really easy to do. And you don't need external, you don't need a special cushion to sit on, you don't need incense burning, you don't need to have a puja table with an altar, and you don't need to have pictures of your gods in front of you. You don't need any of that. You can literally just sit in an empty room with nothing and do it, or sit in a room full of junk and do it, which is really cool in that sense. And the damnedest thing is that it works, and it's worked the best out of all the meditations that I've tried. And I've tried like quite a few because I started when I was 9 years old. So that was 30 years ago now.
So I have a question for you then.
Yeah.
With TM, you're saying it's perfect for the Homer Simpson of the world. Could you maybe a bit more what you mean by that exactly? Because I'm curious.
I mean like the everyday man, like the everyman, like a regular Joe who works down at the factory would benefit from TM. It would be easy for them to do because it doesn't have all these things attached to it and built up. You don't need to know anything about any religious anything. You don't need to talk about subtle energies. You don't need to talk about anything at all. It's the easiest way to get somebody meditating. You give them a word, you sit them down, close your eyes, repeat this word. That's it. But like all things, you'll like reach this high and then it plateaus. And that high becomes the new normal. And then this is where they kind of gets a little shady, because then you're going back to these TM centers and you're going, yeah, like I've been doing this for like 6 months now and it felt great, but now I'm at like the level, like what's the next step? Like what's next? And that's when they rub their greedy little hands together and go, oh, come into this room and let me teach you about breathing techniques. So then you pay like another like $800 to learn a breathing technique that you could learn on YouTube. And things like that get a little bit shady. So But the initial phase of it, just repeat the mantra. Let's go back to that. That part really works. And I've also felt this, and I think I talked about this on this podcast before, but I'm right into like diets and nutrition. And so I tried this ketogenics diet where it's high fat, low carb, and it was the same thing. After the third month, I was flying high. It was like, yes, this is awesome. I feel so great. But then that great became the new normal and it plateaus. And then you're always seeking and reaching for more. You're chasing that nutritional diet or the dragon of nutrition. And you're chasing the dragon of meditation down a never-ending rabbit hole. And so like when it comes to like these TM people, they always claim that they're like, no, we have the answer. And then in another 3 months, when you reach another level, come back to us and we'll teach you something else. So they're constantly just trying to upgrade you. And there's like always, sadly, there's always a huge fee involved. But again, the flip side, there I go, Pisces. I'm like, yeah, but they do a lot of good in the world too. They're doing all this research. So, yeah, it's a toss up.
Well, that's really cool that, I mean, I feel like really for us to world to kind of bridge the left and the right or the light and the dark, we do need to, or even the east and the west. We be looking at things scientifically, but also looking at the esoteric and then bringing those together so that we could really, really see the nature of this reality and how our minds work even.
Yeah.
Sucks that they're charging, because to get the mantra, you have to pay an obscene amount of money from what I've heard at least. And while
it's like $1,000, and if you can prove that you're like a low income, it's only $600.
Oh.
And it's good for like a lifetime of calling up your teacher and going like, hey man, I'm not doing too good. Kind of having like a support system to go back into. But again, when you want to get to the next level though, then you're going to pay again to get to the next teaching package or whatever it is. I actually met with somebody who took the course, who paid the money, and was feeling a little disenfranchised about the whole thing, and they taught me the whole system, just out of like sheer spite of not wanting anyone else to have to pay all that money for a word, essentially. And then later on my own, I downloaded the charts. You can just type in TM mantra chart on Google Images, and there's a bunch of them that come up if you want to follow their word system like that.
Oh wow, yeah. The vert that gets straight to the goods. That's awesome.
Yeah. The weird thing is that when you research the guy, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, he just arrived on the scene one day with the Beatles kind of thing in the Western world here. And they were like, oh, this guy knows meditation, man. You got to learn his meditation. And he's the one who decided to start charging all this money back in like the 60s or whatever it was. And he's the one who really got this, let's charge for meditation rolling. Whereas like where he came from in India, they didn't charge for it. You would just go live in a temple for a few years or live in a monastery and donate your time and all that kind of stuff. But instead he was like, no, I'll just charge all these rich Hollywood people a bunch of money. And it just kind of snowballed from there. Eventually, he ended up having sex with the students. He ended up trying to hide money through offshore accounts and all this other kind of shit. And he got ran out of town eventually. And after he was gone, there's an actor / director named David Lynch who started the David Lynch Foundation, his foundation runs the TM Association, I guess, tm.org, if you're going to look at them on the website. And so because he was an actor, he was able to infiltrate the whole like acting Hollywood scene a little deeper than the other guy had. And so that's when they have people like Jerry Seinfeld, Jim Carrey, they've got Ellen DeGeneres, they've got Hugh Jackman, Wolverine guy, they've got the list goes on. Russell Brand, a bunch of like really cool, down to earth kind of people. But I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, these are celebrities. They do work, they do act for money. So they definitely could have just been paid by the foundation, who has all these billions of dollars now, just to go out there and say that they also do that meditation, when in reality they might go home and kick the dog and yell at their wife or whatever it is. But who knows? Good old Hollyweird. I had fun.
Yeah.
I had fun in LA. I'm probably one of the few people. I loved it there. It was a lot of fun. Met a lot of really cool people, cool cats. Everyone was very spiritual, very down to earth, very grounded. But a lot of guns too. That whole gun thing kind of like really weirded me out.
Guns?
Yeah, like everybody had a gun. Like the coolest people, the coolest, chillest person that you hung out with had a gun in their back pocket the whole time. And I lived there for a year. You know, and then at the end of it, it's like, what, you got a gun? Yeah, man, I bring this everywhere. Like, oh shit, no way. Well, okay, I guess I'm not driving around with that guy anymore, but you could say that, but then you'd have to say, I guess I'm not ever driving with anyone ever. Like this Uber driver probably has a gun. This cab driver definitely has a gun. You know, everyone just had guns. It's like a really strong gun culture and very secretive, and nobody talked about it, but everybody had one. I remember this girl was like, we were at a bar, and I don't drink anymore, by the way, but we were at a bar, and she's like, her purse is sitting on the bar, and she goes, oh, Jay, slide my purse down, or no, go in my purse and get my wallet. So I open up her purse, and I look in, and well, there's a gun in her purse and her wallet. And I was like, there's a thing in here. You might just want to do that yourself. And she's like, oh, my gun. And she like pulled it out. Look, the pink accents match my pink outfit that I'm wearing. And I've got different accents that clip onto the gun. And I've got like 35 more guns at home. And then her and her husband started going off about all these guns and showing me pictures of their gun collection. And she's got like a different gun for every outfit for every day of the week. I'm like, oh my God, this is so out of control. This has gotten to the next level. Gun as an accessory that matches your earrings kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even realize that you could get, like, snap-on accents for your weapon. Yeah. But there's part of me that is kind of, I'm bemused, especially as a Canadian who has only ever touched a gun once, and I was so afraid that I had to put it down immediately. I just have such an aversion to them that's almost nonsensical. But yeah, the gun culture is definitely a thing that I find it very, very interesting. Especially the way you're sharing your experience in LA, how casual people are about it.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, it wasn't really talked about, but everybody just had one. And then when it was brought up, it was just so nonchalant, like, oh yeah, that's my gun. What are you talking about? You know, and then everyone's like, oh, I got a gun too. I got a gun. Look, and everyone's pulling their guns out. And it's like, oh my God, I got to get home where it's safe. Somebody help me. Canada, Trudeau. Ah.
Trudeau.
There wasn't a Trudeau when I was there. That was a few years ago, but.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
well, we won't get on the topic of Trudeau. I don't know how well he is equipped to save anybody. We won't go there.
He could teach a mean yoga class, though, I hear.
Oh, really? Okay, well, that's something.
Yeah.
Something.
I've seen the pictures. He does a pretty cool handstand and, like, without any prep work. He just kind of jumps into yoga poses, him and his wife. But, yeah, that's the only cool thing I know about him. I'm not really big into politics myself. I try and stay out of that shit because it doesn't seem to go anywhere, you know? And these people just keep jumping sides too. It's like, oh, this year I'm a conservative, but next year I'm a liberal. And then the next year if the conservatives win, I'm going to be a conservative again. You know, anything that they're on the winning team no matter what. And they just kind of jump ship and try and navigate those waters.
Yeah.
So
I'm not really big on politics myself. I generally avoid it as well. I kind of feel just not... it's not important to what it is that I do. I mean, I do follow things that are important in the sense of like, Kinder Morgan and BP Oil and what they're attempting to do, especially in Nova Scotia.
Right.
But when it comes to politics, like with voting for the next prime minister and these things, I don't even know who the premier is of Nova Scotia. I'll be completely honest. I don't know.
I gave up trying to remember that stuff too.
No, I think
It doesn't change. At the end of the day, it doesn't like change anything. What the guy's name is or what side that he's on, because it's just another side. It's that duality thing. And I am definitely a non-dualist. And this is something new that I've just kind of learned about as being a thing. And I mean, me, the Pisces, wanting to be a whole one-centered unit. And I feel I am whole and complete at this point in my life. But, I'm still torn a little bit from things. But at the same time, I feel like, we are all one. Why are we fighting over who gets to be the one that's up there when y'all already have decided without our votes? Is kind of the way that I look at it, in a conspiratorial kind of eye to the whole scene. So I'm like, seems like a waste of everybody's time.
Yeah, I agree with you on that for sure.
Yeah.
Like that, it doesn't seem to change, right? And I think it goes back to, again, expecting government to parent us, I think, and give us our opportunities or our training wheels, like you were saying. I just personally have no interest in that, so I just don't pay attention to it. I find I've been much more satisfied in my life when I've been focusing on following my own adventure, I guess you could say, rather than worrying about who to...
And it's the same with the news, right? The news. You could learn about all the murders that happened in 10 cities away from here that doesn't affect you at all in any way. And you can have all the cortisol spikes and the adrenaline spikes, and you can have the insulin spike and the fight or flight response increase, and you can sit here and watch the TV and get all upset and worked up about it, and then poof, and then a Ford commercial comes on and try and sell you a truck that you don't want. Or you could just not go through any of that, not subject yourself to these ups and downs of tweaking your physiology through information, which is really what's going on.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, hey, geez, it's been like over an hour. I think we've touched down on some pretty cool things here. One other thing I like to talk about is, just before you go, is flow state. Getting into that flow state, like what happens when you're like an hour deep into a yoga class and your mind and body merge as one with the universe, and it all just melts and merges and blends together, and everything just makes sense. And it's kind of like the teacher's there and she's telling you what to do, but you're kind of hearing her, but kind of not. You're just in this perfect zone of this flow state. And they're using flow state now for things like the Marines, Navy SEALs, military's using it, sports and athletes. And like I said before about the meditation thing, or about yoga, using it for other things other than the spiritual side of it. That's kind of being done with flow state. And so they're able to get people to just snap right into flow state within seconds without having to do an hour of yoga. And they're able to just get right in that. Artists get in there, musicians get right in there now. A lot of different jobs, they're trying to get people into these flow states because your performance levels go through the roof. You become your best self possible. You're not going to complain about every little mosquito bite. You're just going to hop on that bike and ride through the woods and get to the thing you got to do. You're going to just power through it, I guess. So I don't know what your experience with any flow states have been. If you get into like flow states through any of your work.
In the dance sense, when I'm doing meditation, one thing though is definitely when I'm chanting for my client, part of my work is I chant information, and I feel like a flow state as you're defining it, because it is very much like you're not stuck in your mind. Things are coming to you very smooth and flowing in that sense of like I'm just talking and the information coming and making sense, but I'm not thinking about whether or not it is making sense or not. It's just I know that what's coming out needs to be said, and of course I confirm after with my client, for instance, and it's sensical, but it's so interesting because it's really like also in part two, a necessary to just becoming more consciously aware. So I'm finding it really interesting that you're talking about, people are being snapped into this within seconds, in a sense, or scant minutes. Yeah. Because for me, it's actually taken me quite a few years to learn how to do that. just to be able to get in. And even then, for me, like I don't know, I feel it doesn't come as naturally for me as others.
Yeah. I think the next level for me too that I've always wanted to try is to get into channeling things too, because it just seems like the next logical step to go into. For my the skeptical side of me though is saying like, well, I am such a highly creative person that I'm just going to create a bunch of shit. But then the people who are doing it are like, yeah, that's the channeling, man. Like, let it come out, let it flow through you, get it all out. And then there's this, as I've been in a hip hop band, so I've been a rapper for many years, but I can't freestyle to save my life. When all my friends can just blah, 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 freestyle it all out, I'm like, nah, I overthink everything. I sit and take like days to script perfectly a 3-minute song. Like I will take a month sometimes just to script the words so perfectly that it fits in with the music and everything. And it's just this whole thing. When other people are just like blah, 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 and they can just spit it all out. And I kind of feel like that I have a fear almost that the same thing is going to happen through channeling. I'm going to try and overthink it. I'm going to try and, maybe, like you said, you refer with the client after. I would be trying to refer with the client right in the now, like, trying to make some eye contact or something like, did I get it? Did I get it right? Is that right? Yeah, does that make sense? Does it? So that would be the next logical step of my personal evolution with that kind of stuff. So that's really cool that you do that. And geez, you should make like a video or something and put some of that online. It'd be really cool to watch. And I know a lot of people at home would like to see some of that kind of stuff too. And I know there's thousands of them out there, but it would be cool to like know someone, who's from like my hometown who does it and does it well. It would be kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, I would love, actually, it's so funny you're saying this. Well, actually, it's not funny at all because that's just the nature of this whole reality, I feel. Everything comes in its time. But yeah, I've been thinking about actually bringing channeling to part of what I offer in the videos that I make. I would love to do that. In fact, I feel like it will come soon because I want to see how well I'm able to convey information by doing it that way. Because a lot of the time, just as you were saying, you second guess yourself, or you'll need to perfect your rhyme and really spend lots of time refining them rather than feeling comfortable and freestyling. When I'm making videos, it's very similar. I have this list of stuff I want to talk about, and I'm like, I can't forget to talk about this, gotta remember this, when really what I want to do is to be flowing with it. So, channel messages are probably going to become a thing. So thanks actually for bringing that up, because it's like a confirmation in a sense, like feedback from the outside world, because this is literally new to me to even be thinking about doing it in this format. So, yeah, cool. Cool.
Yeah, geez, I look forward to seeing some of that stuff. So, hey, where can everybody reach you online? What's your handle?
Oh, yes. I can reach me on Facebook at facebook.com/Sarah's Alchemical Workshop. And that's where I upload my videos and where I offer my services to in the form of personal counseling, astrological sessions, and psychic intuitive development.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have all the links in the description of the show with everything everywhere on the Twitters and all that stuff. The Twitters. I sound like an old man. You darn kids with your tweeties. Anyways, folks, that's it for another episode. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being here. It has been a pleasure. You've been a wonderful guest. And, geez, I would love to have you back on the show again someday in the future. We have so much more to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to.
Cool. Cool. All right. Well, have a lovely day. Goodbye, everyone. Do, psh, ba-doom, ba-doom, boom, ba-doom, ba, boom, 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 psh, ba-doom, ba-doom, boom, ba-doom, woo, and another one gone, and another one gone, and another one. Well, no, there's no dust biting happening here. Not today. Not on my watch, there isn't. I love speaking with people who have a sane mind and a good grip on reality and talking to them about all this metaphysical kind of topics, because they articulate these concepts far better than I could ever dream of, because it's their jam, man. This is their livelihood, and this is why they are an expert in this stuff. And Sarah was no exception. A great show full of wisdom and knowledge And I am so excited to have Sarah back on the show again in the future because we have so much more to talk about. That's it for this week, folks. Peace, love, and light. Namaste, and all that other good noise. And we out of here. Ding, 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 ding. A ding, 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 ding. Woo! A ding, ding, ding. A ding, 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 ding. Woo!